I'm gonna video this just on a recorder. I ain't gonna identify y'all, but God has moved in my heart to come up here, I guess for about the third or fourth time, and I've seen you, a time or two out in Walmarts and stuff. But it's just ridiculous in how that the drugs have ruined the youth. And the sad thing about it is, it was the politicians that allowed it to come over here to begin with. So in actuality, it's not their fault. It's not the youngins' fault. It's the elders' fault that allowed for it to get this far out of hand. And I've just never seen anything like this before, because you know good and well these people that go on these rampages, go on these shootings, you know good and well they got to be on some sort of drugs to do something like that. Huh? Ain't nobody just gonna walk in there with the right mind and just go to shooting and killing a bunch of people for nothing. Are they? I don't think they are. Either that or they're possessed of the devil. You know what I'm saying? They got the devil in them and the devil's causing them to do it. But either or, regardless whether it's drugs, because usually if a person is bonded in heavy drug activity, usually they've already done give their heart and their life, their soul over to the devil. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, some of them are at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they wind up experimenting or doing something that they shouldn't have done, and the next thing you know, they become hooked. Yep. But if they don't move on it within a certain length of time, and they get to liking that type of buzz, they get to liking that type of high, the next thing you know, the old devil will take them over, and then they become mean if they don't have it. Yep. They become mean if they don't got it. I know by y'all losing that boy up there in Dresden in the jailhouse, that has rocked y'all's world completely upside down, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And to think that you took a part in trying to be reimbursed on accountability issues with them people up there that's supposed to be accountable. And basically the lawyer look at you and laugh and drop the lawsuit. That tells you right there how the Southern way still dominates over true justice. Over true justice, because your son, I don't know what he was in there for, but it don't matter. The fact of the matter is, somebody in that jail allowed for that room to be opened that had that evidence room to be open, and for somebody to go in there and get all those drugs out of there, and the next thing you know, they got to passing them around, and your son was one of them that wound up taking one too many, and God only knows, they was probably, whoever was in the pod watching him, they was probably standing there or sitting there actually laughing at him while he was sitting there dying, you know it?
Probably.
Did you know that they had a jail escape? I don't forgot now where it was, but it's been 17 hours since they notified the public that a prisoner had escaped. They went through three counting. You know, they're very particular. They're very strict whenever it comes to them making sure that everybody is in place whenever you're in jail, because you're in there because you've broken the law, right? They went through three counts before they ever noticed that two people had escaped. So you can't tell me that these jail administrators and these people that's working in these jails, they're not doing their jobs.
If they done a hit count and everything, and you know, and them two missing.
And that just come out on the news today.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on my phone.
Doing their job. That's what
I was going through my phone. It's on my phone.
I think it's in Pennsylvania is where it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's on my phone.
It was somewhere way off from here. It wasn't just right here close.
It was way off. I think it was in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania?
I think that's what.
That's what I'm thinking too, somewhere. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is this. If you've done counted your men in your facility 3 times, and it took 3 times for you to figure out that somebody wasn't there, somebody ain't doing their job.
There you go. They ain't doing their job.
Somebody ain't doing their job, just like what went on.
That first count, they all learned something.
That's right.
That first count.
And that's whenever things should have went to a lockdown, and that's whenever they should have made sure that they had to count right, because
they done 3 damn counts, and they was already gone 19 something hours.
yes, sir. God only knows where they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, in a whole.
Might be out doing,
Time they found
killing
out they was
somebody.
gone, they've already been gone 19 hours. I think.
You may say a whole day.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on the run, in 24 hours, you could probably be either in Canada or Mexico,
Yeah, sure can. Or
and that's
France.
traveling by automobile,
Yeah,
keeping
France.
the roads hot, every minute on the hour.
Yeah.
But that just shows you how lax that certain departments of our government has become, especially whenever what happened to y'all's ordeal, where the evidence room was left unlocked, and odds are, what they call those guys that actually go around and help everybody out, and they give them
Trustees.
what?
Trustee.
Trustees.
Trustees. You know good and well the trustee had to be on to what was going on in there.
And it was 7 of them. It was 7 of them. And they took all 6 of them, but they did not take my son
To the hospital.
to the hospital. I found that out, me and my daughter. They did not take him to the hospital. And when I went up there to get his stuff,
Well, he
by law, they don't supposed to carry me back there and show me what they done. They laid him on a wooden table, no sheet. I'm telling the truth. No, it was a table. It was a eating, sort of like a eating table.
Yes, ma'am.
No sheet to lay him down, and all they done was paddle him.
Paddle him.
You know, shock him up and down.
Oh, okay.
That's all they done to him. But all the rest of them went to the hospital. But my son didn't.
Was it your son the only one that died?
Yes, he was the only one died. And all the rest of them was at the hospital. Show me all of that stuff that they done. Then the trustee grabbed him, took his shirt and dragged him down the hallway.
Drug him down the hallway
Yes,
like a dead animal or something,
yeah, like a dead dog.
like a dead dog or somebody that was drunk or something. What did they just? I'm just curious. Did they claim that they just didn't know that your son was in that type of shape until after they'd done already taken the other 6 to the hospital? What was their excuse towards not taking him to the hospital, or have you heard?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what went down.
Have you heard? Because I would want to know per detail who was there, every minute, what was said, what was done, who done it, when they done it.
Well, we got a thing in there that the lawyer got from up there, but we got no computer. But they got a thing in there.
And there was
It showed everything.
there was a guy. He was in the cell with my son. He was a colored guy. I called him a colored guy. He was banging on the wall when my son got sick. He was hitting that wall and
No, he's hitting on the door.
hitting on the door, and they did not come in there.
Because he knew something was going on, didn't he? That guy that was in there, they call them cellies.
Here's the trustee's pod door. Here's the control booth. Just right across.
But the black
They didn't see.
but the black man you're talking about, they call them cellies. You usually whenever they lock the pod down, there's usually 2 per room, and those 2 people are called cellies because they share the same cell together.
But in that trustee pod, It's a day room.
Oh yeah, that's a day room.
It's a day room.
That's liable to have 3 or 4
They're
or
not
5
allowed
or
to
4 or
have-
5.
I think there's 16 to a pot.
The colored guy told
There's
me,
16 to a pot.
the colored guy told me that he was hitting the door and he was hollered when that guy,
I don't know why they couldn't
that
hear him.
guy gave my son and all the rest of them some kind of pill or something, and that colored guy said, something is wrong with this guy here. They just walked out. They stand to the door, took all the rest of them to the hospital.
And that's what I'm saying is the trustees pot here, the control room's right here. I mean, just right across. They can see, in the control room. And why they beating on the door? Why no further than that? Why couldn't they hear? Or look at that door and see somebody beating on that door.
And the trustee said, I didn't hear anybody hitting on the door. I said, well, you might have to
It's
clean
probably
your
in that
ears.
control room asleep.
No, possibly he was on some of that dope too. And he knowed not to take the whole batch, and he only took part of the batch. See the way they talk about that dope, that fentanyl, that if you got just a package that ordinarily, a sugar package that you put in your coffee,
Yeah.
that sugar package is adequate of the potency in that sugar patch to be able to kill over 500 people. 500 people in one sugar pack if it's fentanyl.
Yep.
That tells you how lethal that stuff is. In other words, you don't have to have but just a little bitty speck of it. And what they're doing, a lot of these drug people are doing, I guess they're doing it over in China and places like that. They're mixing stuff in with the other drugs to make it look like that it's authentic. And the whole time it ain't authentic. It's causing people to overdose. But I just thought whenever I heard that about those 3 counts and them 2 guys escaping, y'all was one of the first people that I thought of, because I thought to myself, yep, that right there shows you how careless and how neglective that they are in these type of facilities, because I've been in them. I know how they are. I know what goes on in them.
I ain't cut it short, but we got to get in there. She picked supper a while ago, and we got to eat.
Well, did that lawyer drop all the charges?
What he done,
Y'all don't have no.
the guy, we went to court and they give him life and penitentiary, but he can't get out on parole because he killed my son.
Is that the
And I told my daughter I want justice. Well, I
The one
got
that
it.
give him the stuff. The one that broke into every room. Got
Yeah,
in
the
every
evidence room to give the pill to my son. I wanted justice. And I told them I want him to go to penitentiary for life and don't get out.
well, that's what they're going to do, right?
I'm gonna go in
They
here.
did it. They did it.
They did it. All right. How about the administrator, the people that's actually in charge of all that? How come they wasn't held liable?
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I know that I got justice, me and my daughter did. And I said, amen. He will not get out on parole.
And that was one of the one of the
That's the one that give my
the
son
the pills to everybody.
to everybody. All the parents, it was 7 of them. My son was the 7th one died. All of us stand up and said that we want him to stay in jail and don't get out. Go to the pen and don't get out.
Did they offer y'all any kind of settlement as far as money wise?
No,
Lord.
Just give us that. Just give us that.
Well, did they offer to pay for the funeral or anything?
Mike Wilson said that he will not give us no money to pay on the funeral. My daughter had to do it all.
See, that's wrong too. You know why?
Mike
You know
Wilson-
why? You know why that's wrong? I'm gonna tell you why. Because I was in there too, okay, in Weakley County Jail, for a charge that I never should have even got charged with to begin with. And while I was in there was so much pressure going on in my life at the time that I attempted to commit suicide.
Mike Wilson got upset.
Let me finish. I attempted to commit suicide because so much was going on in my life, I felt like throwing in the towel. Okay? So they take me to Martin, to a doctor up there in the hospital up there. He looks at me, he gets on this intercom talking to this three-way thing, and he's talking to some people in Bolivar, and they agreed that I needed to go to Bolivar. So they went ahead and loaded me up that night and took me to Bolivar. The police officers did here in Weakley County. I stayed in Bolivar for about right around 10 days is how long I stayed there. And during the time that I was in there, it was actually a silver lining to my particular case, because while I was in there, they detected that I was a diabetic. And I didn't know that I was even borderline diabetic, much less being a diabetic, until after I went to Bolivar down there. They got to looking at me and looking at my blood and everything and doing tests on me. But this is the point that I'm trying to make. After I pleaded guilty to a charge that I never should have pleaded guilty to, pertaining to my brother and I being conscientious about three little children that was across the road. After I got out of jail, I wasn't in there but about 37 days, a little over a month. They sent me a bill. They sent me a bill for about, I think it was about $4,000 in Weakley County up here at the hospital, and sent me another bill for about $10,000 of the bill down there in Bolivar. And if I wasn't smart enough to investigate what that they was doing, I could have very easily thrown away about $14,000 or $15,000, and it would have been money that I shouldn't have had to have paid. You know why I shouldn't have had to have paid that? Is because once a year, every one of these jails, it don't matter if it's a county jail, city jail, or federal jail, they're allotted a certain amount of money by the taxpayers, because they know that something's going to go on in their facility, and eventually somebody's going to have to go to the hospital, or somebody going to have to have going to be checked out, and because of it, the county or the state is supposed to fit the bill. So you're telling me that they basically sat back and allowed for your son to die, and then did not even offer you not even $100 for his funeral expenses? Is that what you're telling me?
Mike Wilson said he would not give us a dime to put on the funeral.
Did he say that in court?
He said it.
In court?
Yes,
He did.
yes.
See, that right there tells you right there it ain't nothing but a backwoods court and a backwoods lawyers and backwoods judges. They just do whatever they want to do. And what was the original charge that your son went to jail for to begin with? Was it a dope charge?
No, he did not,
Child support or something?
no, he was on probation, and
He-
he went to probation.
He violated his probation.
He violated his probation. He didn't have no way to go to court, and he broke his court.
Well,
And he was going to get out. He was going to get out the same month that he died.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And the reason why that I'm even more remorseful about it is because basically the same thing happened to me up there with the courts my brother and I was fighting demons down here at Hop In of a group of people that didn't like it because I moved in down there, and we'd already went to court like 3 or 4 different times in trying to resolve the situation in a legal way. And to be quite honest with you, my younger brother kept telling me, he said, Juby, they don't want this to be resolved in a decent, civilized way. They want somebody to draw blood down here. That way somebody's going to wind up going to jail for a long period of time. Just hang on for a second. And I said, David, you're probably right, but we're smart enough to know that it's an entrapment deal, because they should have done already solved this situation that you was going through before I ever even come back here. Thing about it is, the attorney that we hired, which was Bruce Brown up here in Union City, David kept telling me, whatever you do, Juby, whatever you do, don't take that to lower court, because Tommy Moore, he got something against us, and David had already went to court 2 or 3 different times over the same people. And one time they actually took my brother down on the ground. 3 of them did, 3 of the neighbors, and my brother had a gun in the back end of his pocket, and the gun fell out. Well, whenever the gun fell out, the clip fell out of the gun. Well, the guy that was on top of my brother on our property now, they took my brother down on his own property, grabbed up the gun real quick and put it to his head and start trying to deactivate the gun by pulling the trigger. And the gun had a special safety feature on it to where if the clip come out, it didn't matter if there was a bullet in the chamber or not, the gun would not fire. The gun would not fire. So David had done already told me, Juby, whatever you do, do not take this case before Tommy Moore. He said you'd be better off taking it to a higher court, even if it meant for us to have to be out more money towards giving the attorney more money. So me and my brother had done already agreed to that. A matter of fact, David, my brother, had already put the money in an area that I told him to put it in, which was in the refrigerator, put it in the freezer. It was an extra $500, and he was willing to fit the bill for it, because he knowed good and well that what we was going through was a bunch of BS. And my brother died. Yeah. During the time that my brother died, I wasn't a beneficiary. I wasn't in his will. Of course, nobody expects to die. But David didn't have none of that stuff, none of that legal stuff done. So I had to go out here and take care of all that. I had to have his body basically, whatever you call it, up there in Greenfield. And the meantime, the same neighbors was driving around cussing and carrying on, accusing me of having something to do with my brother's death, and calling me a pedophile, and calling me a murderer, and having sex with my brother and everything else. It was awful, absolutely awful. But during about that 10-day period that my brother had died, while this was still going on down there in Hop In, the attorney that we hired failed to write me or call me and let me know when the next hearing was going to be. Because I missed the hearing, that gave Judge Pence, which is the state judge up here in Dresden, that gave him the power now to put out a warrant for my arrest, even though it was me that wanted to go before Judge Pence. Yeah. Okay? But because I didn't go, that gave him the power to come after me. So that's what they done. They come after me. Even while I was still in jail, being, whatever they call it, arraigned or whatever you want to call it, standing there in front of the judge, my attorney was there that day that told the judge, Your Honor, Mr. Jackson was not aware that his court date come up. It was my fault. Yeah. And you would have thought that if an attorney thought enough of his client that he was willing to say that in court to the judge, you would have thought that the judge would have evaluated the whole situation towards ever going out there and having me arrested to begin with. Yeah. But they didn't. They didn't. You know what happened ultimately after about a year? I wound up going back to court, and I wound up standing back in front of that same judge. I didn't have no charges on me. I waited till everybody was gone, and he goes, seemed like you may have a problem with me. Do you have something to say? I said, yes, sir, I do. I said, do you think it was fair in what went on towards you putting paperwork out towards having me arrested after Bruce Brown, my attorney that I hired, told you that I was not aware of my court date? Do you think that that was fair on my behalf? He looked at me, he said, it sounded to me like you had an attorney a problem. In other words, he didn't have no remorse whatsoever about the flub up. And the thing about it was, I was grieving. I was literally grieving because you don't expect your youngest sibling to die like that, your younger brother. And the reason why he died was because of all the pressure that they was putting on him, because we'd already went to court 3 or 4 times. We couldn't get nothing done. And the idiots out there was still driving around, aggravating us, calling us all kind of names. They was tormenting us. They was tormenting our lives. They was hunting us down. And all the problem the whole time was coming to our address. It wasn't us going to their houses and having no confrontation. The confrontation was coming to our house, and we was trying to handle things legally.
Yeah. And Mike Karma got Mike Wilson. I'm not hateful or nothing, but he deserved it. He's got cancer and he's died.
Who?
Mike Wilson.
Well, I don't wish nothing bad upon nobody. I mean, that's...
I'm not wishing nobody bad, but look what he done to me and my daughter, you know?
Your whole family.
Yeah.
Especially if the jail administration wasn't willing to help you out, because they know good and well that you're poor people. They know good and well that you're living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, my God, you're living in an RV. You barely got a pot to pee in, nowhere to throw it. And to think that they would have thrown something like that upon to the burden of the family, that just tells you how low life that the courts are up here in Weakley County.
They are. And I told all of my sisters and brothers and my kinfolk, do not go to Dresden jail, because you go in there, you'll die in there.
And if the truth be known about it, somebody, and it may even been Mike Wilson himself, that was fully aware that day or that night, that afternoon, that room was unlocked, and it should have been locked, pertaining to it having all them drugs in there of an evidence room. If the truth be known. Or the jail administrator. The jail administrator that had been working in the jail now for about 35, 40 years, he finally retired. Yeah, shortly after I got out of jail, which was in 2013.
Yeah, he did.
No, wait a minute. I'm wrong about 20 and 13. 20 and 17. After I got out of jail in 20 and 17, he wound up retiring, and I guess he's spending the rest of his days fishing on the river and enjoying his life.
And you know what? I went up there and got his stuff, and he showed me what he done, the room that they laid my son in. You know them the polices and
the jail administrators.
Yeah, all of them didn't even say, "Oh, I'm sorry that your son is dead."
In other words, they never showed any type of remorse or any type of decency.
They just stand there.
Oh my God.
They just stand there. And here I was.
Like he deserved it or something. Well, there's no doubt that any time that you're a homeless person, or you're on drugs, or you're basically just a problem to society, you take like a prostitute whore. If she winds up disappearing and all of a sudden they find her body out here in a river somewhere, oh, it's just another dead body. What the heck? You know, yeah. They treat them like that they're secondary and thirdary citizens, and that's bias too, because I don't care if that person is a homeless person. I don't care if that person was on drugs. I don't care if that female did wind up getting on the streets to be able to make a living towards being a hooker. Her life, her soul, is just as important as the judge or the president of the United States, as far as us being equal. We're all equal at the foot of the cross, and it don't matter. I don't care if you're Donald Trump, you're worth a lot of money. Your soul, whenever we all go to the spirit world, your soul is going to be equal to my soul.
He died April the 2nd. He was going to get out April the 30th.
over basically, like you said, he had an appointment with the probation officer, and he missed a probation. He missed a probation because he couldn't find a ride, and because of it, they come and got him.
Yeah.
What was the original charge for? Do you know? Was it a drug charge?
No, it was just his probation.
No, the original charge. Why did he go to jail to begin with? That he wound up getting in trouble.
He got in jail for them 2 charges:
What charges?
breaking, not going to probation, and not going to court.
No, that was on the second leg. I'm talking about the first leg. Why did he ever go to jail to begin with? Was it a drug charge? Did he break in somebody's home? Was it a theft charge? Was it something a misdemeanor? Was it something petty as far as it something being small? He had to go to jail for some reason. Why did he go to jail for?
That was his first charge.
What was it?
His first charge is what I'm telling you. And when they come to his apartment, they knocked
He had to break the law, ma'am. They had to
he
charge him.
knocked on the door and he told him on the couch.
He come into the house?
Yeah. The police walked in the house and told him on the couch. He was asleep on the couch and he stand up. Then they told him back on
Well,
the
you know, just within the past 3 to 5 years, there has been.
Was no dope charge at all. It wasn't no dope charge.
It had to be some sort of a charge.
It wasn't no dope. It was them breaking his probation and not going to court.
All right, what was he on probation for?
I don't know.
Was it over child support?
I think his girlfriend took him for child support.
Okay. So he was struggling because once more the politicians has failed us towards allowing for all these factories to shut down, and basically we've been sold out because now there ain't no jobs available around here. And if you do got any record whatsoever, oh man, they'll comb through and they'll figure out if you've ever had a violation on your record. They'll just basically demonize you. And the thing about it is, according to the law that I've always been acquainted with, double jeopardy is supposed to be against the law in America. Well, whenever somebody does their time and they pay their crime or their time for the crime that they've committed, once you get out, you're not supposed to be punished again and again and again because you committed a crime. The way that the computer is set up today over here in America, it can affect your credit. It can affect you towards renting out an apartment. It can affect you towards getting a job. It can absolutely destroy your life because you made a mistake and you wound up getting a charge in your life, and now you're being haunted. You're being plagued by it the rest of your freaking life. And you can't tell me that that's not the reason why that the wrath of God isn't coming down upon this country. It is. It is. It's out of whack.
And they didn't like my son at all. I called up there and asked him how he was doing, and he had a runny nose or something. I called up there. He had a runny nose. They wouldn't give him no medicine at all.
Could care less if he lived or died.
That's right.
And that was over what? During the time that all that COVID stuff was going on, right?
Yeah.
When did he die? When did your son die?
April the 2nd.
What year?
Oh, Lord. I got the papers in there and I can't look at them. It was,
20 and 19? 20 and 20? It wasn't but about 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it?
let's see. This year was the 2nd.
May have been 4 years ago. I think your son wound up going to jail after I was in there.
He's been dead 4 years.
4 years. And this is 2023. So he went in just about the time that COVID was coming around. Sure did.
Ooh,
Well, like I said, I don't know. How did you find out that Mike Wilson had cancer?
we got a friend lives down the road here.
Yeah.
She told us. She told us that he's got cancer, and he's got a couple years to live. And now he retired. Now they got this sheriff named Terry.
Right.
Now he took over Mike Wilson's place,
Yes, ma'am.
and they tell me that Mike Wilson looks bad.
Well, he may do it, but I don't wish no death upon nobody because
No,
because of what that they done or what that they didn't do that they should have done. I'm not going to wish no death upon nobody
no.
because I know that God will ultimately judge us all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I got a judge right now up in Trigg County, Kentucky, Katie's, Kentucky, that I've been told that he's ate up with cancer and he's at the brink of fixing to die. Well, that ain't something that I wish upon anybody.
Yeah, I'll eat it.
I don't wish that upon nobody towards having a cancer
Not me
or some
either.
sort of
I
disease
don't
like
wish
that.
Nobody.
No.
Because I've got kin folks died with cancer.
I do too. And as far as that goes, you don't never know. We liable to wind up dying of it. The same thing. You don't never know. But before I leave, can I pray for you?
Yeah, I miss him so.
I know you do.
I wish he walk up here.
Come over here. Like I said, whenever I heard that about them two boys escaping, and it was like 19 hours, they done already went through 3 counts. The first thing I thought of was you. I did. I thought of you. Father, eternal God, I know, Lord, that this lady is grieving because of the things that went on pertaining to her son. I know, God, that it has absolutely rattled her emotions and rattled her family pertaining to the dirty judicial justice system here in Weakley County that has caused this type of injury that wasn't even willing to help them out on the bills. I just pray, God, that you will bring peace and that you will bring a sense of graciousness into her mind and into their lives so that they can go on about their life even though they know that what has happened here was not right. I just pray, God, that you continue to bless them and be with them in Jesus' name, and amen. Ma'am, I am so sorry that you had to go through this, because basically your son went through similar circumstances that I did of me making a court date, and then after my brother died, I was grieving over his death, and then they come and lock me up because I didn't make my court date, and then the attorney confesses in front of the judge, well, Your Honor, I failed to let Mr. Jackson know that he had a court date coming up when his court date was, and that just went through Mr. Pence's ears and went out the other.
I miss him every day.
I know you do.
I don't want Christmas. I don't want Thanksgiving.
Y'all, you just almost want to just die yourself. You become so depressed. But maybe there was a reason for all this. I don't know. Maybe there was a reason.
He didn't deserve this. He don't deserve it.
Well, you know, they're finding out a whole lot of stuff about these cops and about these principalities that basically the unions are in control of, and how much that they've been getting away with all this time. All this stuff is coming out, and I'm just afraid that it's going to be a whole lot more. It's going to come out about these police officers that does what they do. Did you see that whenever those officers done that black boy the way that they done down there at Memphis?
Yeah.
Wasn't that awful?
Yeah, it was. My son was a good man. He would do anything for anybody. He would give his last dollar to anybody. And he don't deserve this.
What was his name?
Danny Joe.
Who?
Danny Joe.
Danny Joe?
Yeah.
Danny Joe. And how old was he whenever he died?
He was 34,
Good grief.
and he's got 2 boys and a girl. He's got 2 boys and a girl.
He's got 3 children.
Yes.
And now that burden has fallen upon to that family, to where now that mother or mothers, I don't know nothing about the family, but now that burden is fallen upon them because of their mistakes that they made up here in Dresden.
8-year-old, his daughter go out at nighttime, about 7 o'clock, and look up her. Says, "Daddy, I love you."
She can't get over it neither then, huh?
Nope.
4 years ago, it seemed like it was just yesterday, huh?
Yep. She's 8 years old, and she can't understand what. Where's Daddy? Why did Daddy die?
Well, like I said, it's a national problem pertaining to all the drugs that's come into the area. And the thing about it is, our politicians, those that sit in these seats for 25, 30 years. How long did Mike Wilson stay sheriff?
For a good while.
I think he's the longest lasting sheriff
Yeah.
in the county or in the state.
Yeah.
I think he was elected 9 different times. And they want to boast about that and say, well, wow, he was the longest lasting sheriff. I'd hate to know that I was working for the sheriff's office or the drug endorsement or the narcotic, whatever. I'd hate to know that I'd done such a bad job.
He was no good. He was a lousy sheriff. I tell you, he was.
Well, I don't know nothing about all that. I know his brother at one time.
Because
He had a brother that worked at
Somebody
Cadillacs,
don't
and
walk
I'd do anything for his brother because I thought the world of him.
he walks, you walk into jail, and you want to talk to him. You just stand there, and he won't come in his office. You go in, you just sit there. I said, "Is Mike Wilson?"
So y'all confronted him several times and wanting to talk to him about all this.
And he would not.
He wouldn't talk to you.
He would not come in that office.
That shows you right there how low life it is.
He wouldn't come in that office.
He wouldn't come in the office to confront you pertaining to the death of your own
We
son.
waited 2 hours up there. We sat 2 hours and he never did come in his office. That's how sorry he is.
Well, there's a bunch of them up there. As far as I'm concerned, they all need to go to jail. They do. The way that they do things, it's one thing if you do things above the board and you're doing it by the book. But around here, I don't even think they got a book. They just do whatever that they want to do in whatever way that they want to do it.
Yeah. Then they told me, "Oh, you talk like you're sorry." I said, "No, I'm not sorry about Mike Wilson, but I waited 2 hours. He ought to come and talk to us."
So did the attorney drop all the charges? Is that what happened?
Our lawyer and the judge said, the lawyer said, the family wants justice, and the way they want justice is take him to penitentiary and do not let him get out. That's what our lawyer said to me and Lisa, and Ronnie heard it too. He said, "I want him to stay in the pen, and I want
The
him."
one that handed out the dope, the one that went into the room and got all the stuff out and then passed it out to everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people.
And he said, the lawyer said, "Judge, I want him to, when he gets old, he might die in there. He's going to die in there because he can't not get out on parole, and I don't want him out on the parole, and I don't want him out of penitentiary."
Okay, that part of it, you've sought justice, and you're going to get justice on that part of it. But the other part, towards the expense, the funeral expense, and now the mother that don't have a husband to rely upon, that, like I said, they sent me a bill. They sent me a bill. Listen to me.
They wouldn't give
Listen
us
to me.
no money
They
at
sent me a bill expecting for me to pay that money. And if I would have been a dummy and not investigated it before I sent the bill, before I sent the money, I guarantee you I would have lost every penny of it. I wouldn't have got back a penny of it. But I got to calling up some people, and I found out that every principality, it don't matter if it's a county jail, state jail, federal jail, they all get delegated a certain amount of money because they know that certain things are going to happen in there that you're going to have to call upon to emergency finances to take care of.
Yeah.
And it should have been the same way with the burial of your son.
They did
The
not
county
give-
should have paid for it.
They did not give us no money. My daughter paid it.
Not one dime.
Didn't give us one dime. We said we wanted money for to pay on the funeral. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't give us no money.
Knowing good and well it was their negligence that caused it to
Yeah.
begin with. Boy, oh boy, that ain't man on man.
Yeah.
And like I said, the politicians are.
They asked me and my daughter, "You want a settlement?" I said, "How?" My daughter said, "How much?" "You want $100?" It would take $100. My son ain't worth $100. We didn't take that $100.
Good for you.
We didn't take it.
Your son's life was worth more like $1 million. More like $1 million. Not no $100. That'd have been a slap in the face. And you know what? If you would have taken that money, then that would have eased their consciousness by saying, well, we offered her this money and she took it, so everything's good to go.
Yeah, and my daughter said, "How about giving us $2,000 or $3,000?" They said, "No. You want a settlement of $100?"
I'm glad you was smart enough to turn that down. Because like I said, if you would have went ahead and taken it, then they could have eased their own consciousness by saying, well, we gave her some money and they were satisfied with the money.
Yeah.
$100. You know how much a young man's life at the age, how would you say, was 34 years old?
Yeah, 34.
34 years old, you figure somebody's going to make about $50,000 a year for the next 30 years. So they should have rounded that out. 50,000 times 30 years, which would have basically been what, $600,000, $500,000 settlement.
Yeah.
They should have given you $500,000 settlement because that would have been the efficiency of his lifespan towards going for not just the funeral, but also helping raise them babies, that little girl and them two boys.
Yeah.
My.
And then they walked off, and I told my daughter, I said, "I hear something." They said, "That woman didn't want to take that money. They didn't want to take it. They was told."
It was an insult. Who would have wanted to have taken it?
I heard it.
Who would have wanted to have taken it? It was an entrapment. Just like whenever they sent me a bill for $4,000 in one hospital and another $9,000 or $8,000 for another deal. If I would have paid that money, I promise you, if I would have paid that money, I would have never been able to have gotten any of that money back.
They was walking up and said, "Them two didn't want to take that money." I said, "Lisa," my daughter,
It was an insult.
I said, "They're talking about us. They're talking about us."
Ma'am, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Listen, I've recorded this, okay? I've recorded this conversation, and maybe I'm going to put it on my Facebook. Maybe if somebody listens to this, maybe it will help another family in not having to go through the same horrors that you had to go through. Regardless whether it's in Weakley County, Tennessee, or anywhere else in America, maybe, just maybe, if the right people hear this, another family won't have to go through the same type of burden that you went through, especially knowing good and well that the county should have been held accountable.
They didn't.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Well, I'm going to turn this off. You have a good night, okay?
Okay. I'm going in there and think about him and talk about him.
Well, just stay close to the Lord. Just stay close to the Lord. That's all I can tell you. Justice will come. It may not come in this lifetime, but justice will come. You remember that. Because it will be the Lord that will vindicate all his children. It'll be the Lord that'll vindicate us. You hear me?
Yeah.
You take care.
I will try to.
I know it's tough.
It's tough.
But I had to, for some reason, you popped into my mind as soon as I heard about those 2 convicts that escaped.
It's tough.
I know it is. Take care.
Just pray for her.
I will. Promise you I will. She's crying right now. She can't hardly maintain her composure.